I am going to beat you into the living death.
UFC 310 was the card at which Belal Muhammad had the most laughably awkward post-fight octagon face-off of all time. I promise you that other things happened, and I also promise you that this was the funniest. After 5 rounds of amazingly executed, high-intensity cuddling between Garry and Shavkat Rakhmonov that almost turned into a slumber party for Shavkat in the 5th, this audio animatronic straight from the Kazakhstani country bear jamboree somehow got himself out of a damn near dead to rights rear naked choke and had done enough in 3 other rounds to get his mechanical paw raised. The only thing more mild-mannered than Shavkat is Shavkat's translator, so the two of them answered Joe Rogan's questions with all of the fiery passion of a library group study. As a number 1 contender bout, the inevitable question about fighting Belal would be asked of Shavkat, who couldn't get it translated quick enough to beat the absolute monsoon of boos Belal was greeted with when his face was shown on the screens of the T-Mobile Arena and our home televisions. Mind you that this event is taking place in the United States of America. The person in the cage being interviewed, who was just heaped with praise from the audience, is from a country that 90% of Americans couldn't identify on a map, and 85% only know because of Borat. The person being booed is an American-born champion who has not lost a fight since 2019. This is the effect that Belal Muhammad has on people. So Belal smiles his toothy grin and gives 2 thumbs up while staring at himself on the Jumbotron, which is poor media training and definitely more cringy than the last time we saw him in the crowd, but admittedly less cringy than the time before that. He then starts wrenching his hands, I guess to symbolize the snapping of Shavkat's unbeaten streak, but it's also the international symbol for taking a work break, so it looks like he's telling Shavkat to go take 15 and have a cigarette, which is ironic, as that's exactly what half the population does whenever Belal is fighting inside of an octagon. It was then time for the obligatory in-cage showdown between the newly christened number 1 contender and the current champ, which of course we know from Israel Adesanya and his African brother Dricus is always a great idea.
What's up, nigga?
Of course, if there was ever a champion who was going to have his entrance botched, it would most assuredly be Belal, whose problem started before his feet even landed on the other side of the audience guardrail. Apparently no one got the remember the name memo to the event staff who wasn't letting Belal through, leading Joe Rogan to hit us with this now iconic line.
Security doesn't know he's the champ.
Prepare to hear that clip in UFC meme videos anytime there's a boring champion until the end of time itself. What a way with words that Joe Rogan guy has. Someone should give that man a podcast. Now in this instance, I think only one of 2 things could be true. 1, security really didn't know that Belal Muhammad was the welterweight champion of the world, and what a blissful state of ignorance that must be. Or 2, they knew Belal was the champ, and on behalf of the MMA community, were making a valiant attempt to save both the world and Belal himself from the in-cage cringe that was only a few additional moments away. Perhaps if Belal had fought a gaggle of UFC security guards instead of Leon Edwards earlier this year, we might have been spared of this whole embarrassing incident to begin with. Following that logic, I'd say the fault for this memeable encounter can really be pinned on Leon Edwards for losing the belt in the first place, but in reality, security probably wouldn't have known that he was the champ either, so the timeline would have played out roughly the same. Anyway, security finally does remember the name, and Belal is allowed to enter the octagon, where Shavkat, Rogan, and translator librarian are all waiting for him. He successfully shakes Rogan's hand, walks up to Shavkat, they smile at each other, and they successfully shake hands as well. This would be the final time during this encounter in which this level of handshaking success would be achieved. So Rogan turns the mic to Belal to get his thoughts on the fight with Shavkat, and this is really Belal's time to shine. Were he a master wordsmith, even as universally groan-inducing as Belal is, this would be the exact opportunity for him to turn the ship around with one banger promo or even a single deep burner line. So in this moment, what fine-tuned gem does Belal drop on the world?
I see the crowd booing, right? Those boos are going to turn to tears real soon, guys.
Those boos are going to turn to tears real soon. Those boos are going to turn to tears real soon. Huh.
The fuck does that mean?
So the message Belal chose, when he had unfettered mic access and could say literally anything he wanted to get the crowd on his side and on board with this fight, was basically, I know you're booing because you hate how boring I am, but wait until I once again weaponize my boredom and beat this guy, then you're going to be crying because of how boring I am. Congratulations, Belal, you just might be the actual lamest person on the face of this planet. He then goes on to rattle off these pre-rehearsed yet still stilted quips.
It's another victim that I see that I'm gonna break. Another O I'm gonna take. Bully B is gonna be ant still no matter what, guys.
You could take 1,000,000 O's in your lifetime, and they still wouldn't add up to the L that you just took for those bars right there, Bully B. For the love of all that's holy, leave the rapping to the professionals. Like Bryce Mitchell.
Been up on the grind, working my hands, working my stance. Opponent throw a jab, but I seen in advance. Rear hand parry, but I gotta get it back up just for the hook. I already know it's coming, I ain't even gotta look. Hell or high water come, but I really ain't shook, cause I've been there, done that, and I read the book.
You see, Thug Nasty has got actual bars, and he really loves all that is holy. Still waiting for that collab, Bryce. Hit me up on Insta at YAMMA Show. Heaters on deck, my dude. Come on! So Shavkat just responds to Belal's shitty bars like, yeah, cool, sounds good. Very much reminding me of a Kazakh version of that blonde meme yes guy, and that would be the end of it. Except that that is not the end of it. It's not the end of it because Rogan, Belal, and Shavkat all go to shake hands at the same time, so no one knows whose hand to shake. This creates a handshake Ouroboros of sorts, somewhat akin to three hands making the recycling symbol. This Mexican standoff of handshakery is an image so goddamn meme-worthy, I don't know how it hasn't been done to death by now, but since I have literally seen zero online yet, I've done MMA fans a favor and taken the liberty of creating a few of my own. So there you have it, another highlight reel worthy day at the Cringe Factory for Belal, who security might still not know is the champ, with the simple-minded stoicism of Shavkat and the unintentional hilarity of Joe Rogan as supporting characters. For yelling about mixed martial arts, this is Thinker St. James, reminding you that if you care this much about MMA, you too probably find these post-fight face-offs dumb and pointless.
Security doesn't know he's the champ.
Cringe.